Hello. Here's our video on rates, ratios, and unit rates. This should hopefully help you out with some of the work that you're doing on these topics. So let's talk about what those words are first. So we have a unit rate. Let's start with that. A unit rate is a special kind of rate because when you are comparing two different types of things, you always will have a 1 on the bottom when you compare. So unit rate always has a 1 on the bottom, and it's special because of that. A rate and ratio, they're kind of the same thing. They usually are just comparing two different things. Oftentimes, it might be like 3 boys to 2 girls. Okay, so sometimes you say them as 3 to 2. Okay, you can also write it as 3:2, or you can write it as 3 to 2. All right. Either way works, but this is not a unit rate because you don't have a 1 on the bottom. Okay. Now we're going to show you how to find unit rates and how to use unit rates in this video. So that's why it's important. So as I said, a unit rate always has a 1 on the bottom, and a rate just compares. So if we had 4 boys to 2 girls, it compares two quantities with different units. So 4 to 2 or 4:2. Now the unit rate means that we divide. Okay, so we have 4 boys over 2 girls. Well, we're going to divide those because we eventually need to get a 1 on the bottom. And to get a 1 on the bottom, we're going to divide 4 divided by 2, and you're going to get 2 boys per girl. Now, this is the same thing as 2b over 1g, okay? Because remember, 2 is the same thing as a fraction 2 over 1. So, in this case, really all we did was we divided by 2 on both top and the bottom to get the 2 to become a 1, okay? So as you guys are setting them up, remember that it's important. This is very, very important. Dollars and distance will always be placed on the top of our fraction, and time will always go on the bottom. If they're not dollars, distance, and time, you have to just kind of think about where they should go, because you're comparing dollars and distance, in this case, 2 times. So time, if you have an amount that has time, it will always go on the bottom. Hours, minutes, seconds, dollars, and distance, miles, meters, kilometers, will always go on the top. Okay, so let's take a look at an example. And this example comes straight from your homework. Okay, so we have Layla walks a half a mile in 1/4 of an hour. So here are our numbers, 1/2 a mile and 1/4 of an hour. Well, the first thing I'm going to do is set up my ratio. I have 1/2 of a mile, that's distance, so it goes on top, and 1/4 of an hour, well, that's time, so that goes on the bottom. So I have 1/2 divided by 1/4, and I need to get it over 1. Well, we know that the division bar means to divide, okay? And so to get 1/4 to a 1, we are going to divide our fractions, which means when we divide fractions, we're going to get really 1/2 divided by 1/4. We are going to use, keep, change, flip. So now I keep my first fraction, 1/2. I change it to multiply. I divide by 1, or I times by 4 over 1. Okay, I flip it. So then I multiply straight across. 1 times 4 is 4, 2 times 1 is 2. I get 4 over 2. Well, we're not over 1 yet, so let's divide those numbers. And 4 divided by 2 is going to be 2 miles per hour. Okay, so I'll give you a second to get some of that information down and to let it sink in. Cool. Let's do our second example. It says, last week Alexander was paid $56 for 7 hours of work. How much money does Alexander's job pay per hour? Okay, so we're going to set up a rate. So I have $56 and 7 hours. Well, 7 hours is time. That's going to go on the bottom. $56, well, that's dollars, so that goes on top. So I have 56 over 7 hours. Now, I need to get that 7 to a 1, so we already know that we're going to divide, but another way of thinking about it is that we need to know X amount of dollars for 1 hour. Well, to go from 7 to 1, we're going to divide by 7. 56 divided by 7. It always just works out that when you divide, you're going to get a 1 on the bottom, but this is going to be helpful later when we're going to have to scale up. So if I divide by 7 on the bottom, I'm also going to have to divide by 7 on the top. 56 divided by 7 is going to be 8 over 7 divided by 7 is 1. So my answer is going to be $8 per hour. All right, hopefully that helps you out. And the basic steps that you need to know: set up your rate, okay, or your ratio, and then all you have to do is divide, okay? Make sure that your answer always has a 1 on the bottom. All right, hopefully that helps out.